We have around 70 odd registrations for the event, and I'm sure as the time progresses, more people will join. So because it's time now, we should start on time. So good morning to the respected panelists for this. Good all the participants who have joined. Morning to Ashima ji, morning to Shreya ji from UNGCNI, morning to all my back team office people from IMTCDL, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining on at this time for this virtual discussion on aligning CSR initiatives with SDGs in India. And subtext of the topic is demystifying the recent amendments. I am Professor Asif Zamir, and I am the Dean Academics at IMT-CDL. Uh, IMT-CDL has joined hands with UNGCNI to promote this area of CSR and aligning SDGs with CSRs through a lot of initiatives. And one obvious one is launching short-term certificates and training programs. In this area, going forward, we'll like to into projects and research also. So thank you to the UN team for joining hands with IMT-CDL, and this is a very important cause. We know the importance of CSR, how it is growing in the last two decades at least, and on and off, nature keeps on reminding us of this thing. We have the recent example of tragedy in Uttarakhand, which showed us the perils of climate changes and everything. So we as residents of this planet have a duty to protect it and make it better for our future generations. So we have got going to talk about this particular topic today. First of all, I'd like to welcome Ms. Shabnam Siddiqui, and she's the officiating executive director at UN Global Compact Network India, UNGCNI. I'll just give you a brief background of Shabnam ji. It's a pretty heavy profile, so I can only pick up some important points out of that. She's an academic practitioner with more than 25 years of experience. She specializes in developing and executing strategic intervention through multi-stakeholder networks. She is skilled at training and research and has several national and international publications to her credit. She has made significant contributions to creating an active community of change makers committed to accelerating positive change and innovation to achieve sustainable development goals. She has created a path for corporate leaders to align their core business with the strategic goals of the local and international communities and act as a bridge between business and governments. Her role is in getting businesses to realize the attainment of SDGs is inextricably linked with market growth, is the centerpiece of her work, and the impact of which cannot be overstated. She really exemplifies the spirit of innovation and excellence core to any sustainable government work. As far as academic credentials are concerned, she has a super long list of qualifications, including a master's in sociology from India, second master's in international peace studies from US, a PhD in public policy at Singapore. Almost every 2 years, she's engaged in some kind of academic pursuit so as to be abreast of new knowledge and thought leadership. And her most recent Oxford as a Chevening Rolls-Royce Innovation, Science, Policy and Leadership Fellow based at Side Business School, St. Cross College. She has been into work in India for a long time, and then she has got stints in Asia, Europe, and USA. Apart from that, she's an amateur wildlife photographer, a biodiversity conversationist, passionate about wildlife and forests, and intends to work towards their holistic development. Thank you, Shabnam ji. We also have the lead faculty for this particular program, who has been the backbone of this program earlier also with us, Dr. Sapna Narula. She is the professor and dean of School of Management Studies at Nalanda. She is a well-known academician, researcher, practitioner in sustainability who has made contribution to the field of sustainability in business landscape through her teaching, research, and consultancy efforts. She has also played a key role in advancing education for sustainability in India through a number of initiatives targeted at raising awareness, generation, and capacity building youth, managers, and policymakers. Her previous assignment was at Terry School of Advanced Studies, where she was heading the Department of Business and Sustainability, alongside being engaged in teaching and research related to this particular. And her work in the use of ICTs for her many accolades, including Prosper Net Scopus Young Scientist Award for Sustainable Development 2011, delivered jointly by German Ministry, United Nations University, and Elsevier, and a Young Scientist Award from Uttarakhand Council for Science and Technology, Government of Uttarakhand. And she has trained a large number of executives in government and private sector. She has over 1,000 plus hours of training workshops. She's a qualified trainer for businesses. Uh, her ecosystem training, she has also undergone ecosystem training from WBCSD, which is World Business Council for Sustainable Development in Geneva. She is also the president of Global Network for Sustainable Development, Arizona, US, and associated with Asia Pacific Resource Center, UN, GCNI. Thank you for joining. And now I like to request Ms. Shabnam Siddiqui for her opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zamir, for that extensive introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's really heartening to be back with the program. I remember just a couple of months ago when we were launching the program, the first course, and we were so excited because what we had realized, both the Global Compact Network India and IMTCDL, is that not only in India but globally, there has come a moment where we are 1/3 of the time period down the line in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. This was meant to be the decade of action in which the first year has completely been taken away by a pandemic, which has been a major challenge, but I think it's also been an opportunity because it now seems that as if 5 years down the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, nature gave us a complete year to reflect, to recollect and to re-energize ourselves so that what we do in the next 9 years is much more productive, is impactful. And I personally foresee this particular course as a small initiative in that direction. To give a background to the people who are part of this webinar, is that when this course was developed late last year, like it went through a lot of iterations, there was an extensive research on what is the requirement, how can we better coordinate, how can we better arm the people who are focused on working for sustainability to better prepare them for what comes ahead. And with that research and with that those kind of in-depth discussions emerged the idea of this particular course. We have completed the first round, which was done very successfully. I'm sure in the later part of the webinar, the organizers will speak about that. But what we have realized is that as the Global Compact has 10 principles around human rights, environment, labor, and anti-corruption that we espouse, that forms the basis of all our work. So we have the principles, then we have the goals, 17 goals with targets and indicators. But how do we do it? The how part of it has been missing to a large extent. And this course focuses on that kind of a gap. In India specifically, CSR is mandatory. And CSR mandatory requirements are also evolving with the recent amendment that has come in the Act. So as the Act evolves, how should our intervention, how should our impact evolve is something that it's very important for practitioners to be mindful of. And so this need for a CSR and sustainability. Sometimes we use both the terms interchangeably, and that might not be the right course of action, because corporate social responsibility is about doing good. And doing good could be through philanthropy, doing good could be through actual support to initiatives, or doing good can be with direct interventions. But when we look at sustainability, is a much wider, much larger umbrella. And how do we marry the two, and what are the intersections in which they can meet is what this course will largely explore. For us also, it's important that both as a platform, the Global Compact, that we speak about UN principles, we speak about goals, we speak about conventions, and an academic body which talks about the theory aspect. How do we merge that with the practitioner aspect with business leads is something that's really evolving the course better. And we hope that in the coming time, I think the response that we received from the first course was so heartening that without much gap, we have come up with the second course, and we already have had sign-ups on the course, and we are ready to roll like next month itself. So the course as such will be delivered by the best experts on CSR and business sustainability. In some business organizations, both portfolios are held by the same person. In many other businesses, the portfolios are held by different individuals. So even to explore synergy between those two, how do we take things forward is something that we're looking at. The faculty of this course is fantastic. There are people who have actually grappled with issues, they've grappled with challenges, and they have ideas, they have visions on how things to take forward. So the participants will have access to both cutting edge knowledge, skills and attitude, and the pedagogy will be completely eclectic, engaging. We again reiterate that as organizers, as co-organizers of this course, we are looking for feedback. We are evolving the course so that it can be useful actually in the long run. And as Dr. Zamir was saying, even about my background, I call myself an academic practitioner only because I think I place a lot of importance on academics, and all of us, especially the people working in the field, need to go back to academia, need to go back to the basics and see how the world is evolving around us. Because if you are doing the same thing for a long time, there might not be any innovation and there might not be growth. So these kind of short-term courses, because also keeping in mind that many of us, when we are actually engaged in activities in our own business engagements, there's hardly any time. Like I think between forget about actual work, like I can tell about myself, even between email and WhatsApp, very much less time is left for actual reading. So the reading is usually focused in the evenings, the reading is focused on weekends, the reading is focused when we are traveling somewhere. So those kind of things, but to have focused time to not only read, but to engage with people who are actually doing the work is a fantastic opportunity that I think whoever gets a chance should grab it, because any knowledge only empowers you to like, you know, the exposure, the network helps you to enhance the work that you're already engaged in. So in that mind of things, this course is extremely important, I would say. And looking at the basics in the course, we also like one of the program objectives of sustainable reporting guidelines. So especially now, I was in a conversation 2 weeks ago about the impact of the current amendments of the CSR law, like, you know, what is the requirement? There's some mandatory. So how is it evolving? Why is it evolving? Not everything is meant to put people in a soft, like, you know, complicated space. But the why, the how, if we understand, then how do, like, you know, how do we proceed with it, was something that we'll definitely look forward to. We are looking forward to maximum stakeholder engagement. So there will be cross section of people from the academia, from the industry, to take things forward. And the key takeaways will definitely be about the new trends of sustainability, aligning the business strategy. How do we especially when we are reporting, especially when we are looking at not only reporting in terms of global guidelines, but also reporting to our board. How do we pitch for SDGs and CSR, and develop a niche for the corporation that whoever we are representing. So those kind of practical guidelines is what all this course is about, and that is what this industry relevant complete thing is complete course is about. So with that, I think I'll just stop here. Wishing the course great success for people who are on the webinar who have not either attended the first course or have signed up for the second. We'd really encourage you to explore the course, and either to join now if there's a possibility, or join in the third course, which I hope will come out soon. So with that, I hand over the proceedings to Dr. Zamir. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity for providing the initial thoughts, and good luck to the people who have signed up for the course. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Shabnam ji, for putting putting everything into a fine context and giving us the basic reason why we are having this virtual discussion. Uh, I'd like to reiterate the point she made that this is actually a prelude and appetizer for the main course, which is going to come up very shortly, probably in the third week or fourth week of March itself. We will be starting with the class of the second batch of this CSR and Business Sustainability Joint Certificate between UNGCNI and IMT-CDL. Uh, Based on the high quality feedback of the first particular program, we have made this program even better and included the recent amendments. And this particular discussion, the topic is to demystify the recent amendment. So first, I'd like to just give you a background of what CSR is all about. Everybody has a fair understanding of what CSR is all about, but then sometimes putting everything into proper words become difficult for us. In our mind space, we understand what CSR is, but there are certain things that we need to just understand more academically. The concept of corporate social responsibility is an old concept in India because the giving back to the society or doing good for the society has been enshrined in ancient Indian value systems through our religious books, through our value systems, through other kind of literature that has been there all around. But then, as a formalized process and as a government mandatory process, the CSR got its legal backing by virtue of Section 135 of Companies Act 2013, which was applicable from financial year 2014. CSR is generally understood as being the way through which a company achieves a balance of economic, environmental, and social imperatives. From the above definitions, it is clear that CSR need to address the well-being of all stakeholders and not just companies' shareholders. Coming to sustainable development. Sustainable development was defined by Brundtland Commission as the development that meets the need of the present world without compromising the quality of future generations to meet their own needs. In simple words, we leave a world in a better resource position than what we inherited. Now that's the lofty goal of all SDGs, and CSR has to be married to these SDGs. The Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), or also known as global goals, were adopted by all UN member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Shabnam Siddiqui was talking about this decade to be the decade of action, out of which 1 year has already been wiped out because of pandemic. But she very rightly put it in the context that probably that has also given us the importance of CSR and sustainability more closely in our hearts and minds, and it has also given us time to introspect and see how the next 9 years can be more productive. We can do some real actions which creates change in the world. With this background, now I'd like to invite Dr. Sapna Narula to share her initial thoughts, and then what I have done is that I'll be picking up her mind with certain questions on the behalf of all the people who are participating in this webinar, because these are the questions which all of us who are not really expert in CSR have in our minds. So probably those answers will also give us some background, some understanding of this, and will tell you what kind of things can you expect if you join for this particular course. Over to Dr. Sapna Narula.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sameer. In fact, you and both Shabnam have already covered a lot of points. First of all, I would like to go back to when I was contacted by GCNI to have this course in collaboration with IMT. So they were wanting my feedback, in fact, because I have developed some academic programs and MDPs, etc. Late Mr. Dr. Kamal Singh, and I would like to, name him because he started it all. So I was really delighted that such a great initiative from GCNI is coming. In fact, sustainability and CSR, how it has picked momentum in last 10 to 20 years, and there is so much dearth of sustainability and CSR professionals. Of course, at Terry we started MBA in business sustainability. Now at Nalanda also we have started MBA in sustainable development and management. We are trying to bridge that gap. International Labour Organization has estimated that by 2030 around 1 million jobs will be created, which will be called as green jobs, right? So there is a lot of scope and opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities in terms of jobs, entrepreneurial opportunities. But what happens with the corporate people is that they are unable to come for 1 year to a university campus, spend the time, attain a new MBA degree because they have family commitments, they have commitments related to job. So such a course that was the need of the hour. It was started, and I am glad to be part of this particular certificate course, joint certificate program on CSR and sustainability. This course meets the need of those executives who are working in NGO sector, who are working in corporate sector, but they are not abreast with what is happening in this field academically, from the practitioner perspective, from the at the field level, and new policies and frameworks. And believe me, this is such a dynamic field. I started teaching sustainability reporting in 2009, and every year I had to update the course outline because GRI came up with new guidelines, new frameworks came in. Even 2013 was a revolutionary field when in India, CSR was made mandatory by a select group of companies. So the importance of this course at this time cannot be ignored. It is very timely and relevant course, especially for people who are already working, and they are hands-on in this field, but they just want to keep pace with what my peers are doing. And I would also like to share my experience of the last course. I was there in most of the classes. We adopted from the GCNI side. We adopted a unique pedagogy. In fact, all the discussions happened in interactive mode. So reading materials were provided, and we particularly saw that whosoever came in, came with a multifarious experience, and we discussed most of the cases. We picked up some real life case studies and brain games, and discussed with our participants. Besides theory, more hands-on training was given. I remember, student when I talked to students about life cycle analysis and measuring carbon footprint, measuring water footprint. So these were the tools that they were apprised of. They just learned these tools, and they wanted to use these tools at their respective companies. They came up with lot of problems. So because when we were teaching these things, the faculty was teaching these things mostly, in my classes I found that they were very curious. So before we gave them reading material, etc., they gave me a list of questions, and then later on they asked IMT people to prepare a WhatsApp group so that they can post questions. So I and other faculty members, they used to come with those answers that they were having. So believe me, I have taught at many such MDPs and other programs, but this was really a heartening experience for myself as a faculty and all other colleagues who were called, and all the faculty. They were people from industry practitioner, there were people from industry, there were people from um, academia. So a water resources person talked about water resource management, a carbon footprinting expert talked about carbon footprinting. I talked about sustainability reporting. I talked about business strategy for sustainability, and there were people from Bharat Petroleum and Indian Oil, especially talking to them about what they are doing, and who else to talk about, than from a high impact sector, that is oil and gas sector. So I am really happy to know that students also gave a very good feedback, but still, the first batch feedback, we have to move on with this positive and any other suggestions that they have. And I wish IMT and GCNI all the best for this. I'm also looking forward to teach again in this course.
Thank you, Dr. Sapna. So now I'll straight away jump on to certain questions as part of this virtual discussion. So first thing obvious is about the recent amendments. Can you throw some brief light on these recent amendments of 2020 in this CSR Act?
Yes. So, Dr. Zamir and other participants, as we all know that after the act came in 2013, and companies started implementing it, and every law requires discussion, and when it gets tested in the field, and then we go back to the policy makers, and we give our feedback. So, we have been raising voice at GCNI and other forums as well, that there are certain amendments that were needed. And government, consulted us with the draft rules in 2020, and later on these amendment rules have been implemented in 2021. This was the demand of various stakeholders coming from companies, and what was happening. I remember we were having a few discussions at the GCNI forums, Asia Pacific Resource Center, that how, what are the problems that implementing agencies are facing, what are the problems that regulator is facing, what are the challenges company CSR managers were facing. So we are all so glad, and it is a welcome move that government came up with these CSR amendment rules. Let me just highlight a few key points which have been changed here. We all know that companies who are coming, having a net worth of 500 crores and 1,000 crore turnover, or they have to spend 2% of their profits. But here the major achievement is that the government has made mandatory impact assessment of CSR projects by companies who cross the 10 crore threshold. So impact assessment has been made mandatory, which is an important move, because what companies were doing was that they will invest in one project, they will leave that project, they will go to another area, they will start another project. So lot of haphazard. Not only from the regulator perspective, it was not easy to track that what all was happening. And even the companies did not know what is their vision, right? So impact assessment, it is very important, and we had been raising voice that impact assessment is something that we need to be sure of. How many people have been impacted, how many communities have benefited from this, because simply building toilets is not a concern. We want to know how many people and how many females are using that toilet? Are these toilets clean? Are these toilets after 5 years, they are still there, or, these have been uprooted? So this is something that is very important, and not only, about, construction of toilets, but also education and health projects. So this has been made mandatory, which is a very welcome move. And then there is a target focus on creating impact using CSR funds. This will give focus to companies how they are able to create impact, and this will also keep regulator in loop that what impact has been created out of CSR. Then second is which I again call it very significant move, which is earlier, in the schedule 7, this thing we had, this definition of CSR was inclusive, but now it has been made exclusive. So exclusive means that now companies know that what kind of activities and projects would not come under the CSR ambit in India. Okay, some of these are like, it is very clear now that no companies, political party donations will not come under CSR activity, right? Then activities benefiting employees, anyways companies are bound to serve their employees as per the labor laws, etc. So if you are spending money on providing COVID-19 vaccine to your employees, this does not come under CSR. If you are spending money to provide COVID-19 vaccine to your communities, to your beneficiaries, then it will be covered under CSR. It is very clear now. And if you are spending money as per any other statutory provision, then it will also not come under CSR. Say for example, you are bound to spend money on labor. Okay, so that, labor welfare activities, provident fund, others, etc., that you have to do as per another law, which is mandatory. But these will not be covered under CSR. So that means you will not encompass all these things. Then you will not carry out any activity which is being done at the international land. Okay, so no international work, no work outside India will be acceptable under the CSR funds, except for the training of the sports person, where we know that, in India, we do not have exclusive training programs. Except the training of the sports person, we would not be able to do that. Then any other activity which is giving you marketing benefit, right, that will also not be covered under CSR law. It is not that, you have CSR funds and you want to utilize it for any sponsorship or benefit, or, funding a match or IPL or etc. So that will not be covered under CSR. CSR is meant for development activities, meaningful work. And I'm sure that these changes will give a strategic outlook to the CSR that is happening at the company level, because companies now have started preparing their own vision. Also, one thing which is very specific here is that the scope of the CSR committee has been defined. That CSR committee will be taking certain actions. They will be prepared. They will be deciding what activities the company want to undertake, how the project will be monitored, how the project will be executed, and the total ambit of execution and monitoring of projects, this CSR committee will be doing. And the role of international organizations in planning and developing CSR projects is also made clear. Then one important thing that has happened is about definition of administrative heads. So earlier, it was defined that 5% of CSR fund can be spent on administrative head. But what comes under administrative heads was not clear. So there was a lot of, overlap between actual CSR projects and the administrative part of it. So now it has been defined. So then there is a special provision for research and development related to COVID-19. So research and development related to COVID-19 comes under CSR. It comes under CSR only for 3 years till 2023, right? So government has made this provision that you can join hands with any IIT, any industry, any other national or international lab or university or any other agency, but you may not be able to collaborate with any international agencies. Work has to be carried out in India. So that is, I think, again a very welcome move where we are all looking forward to it, and this is going to um, you know going to change the entire uh, vision of CSR in India, in terms of that now CSR projects will be more focused, based on the assessment of needs of communities, and then impact assessment, and modalities of utilization of funds and implementation schedules. And board as well as other employees who are working in CSR will have clarity that what do they expect out of CSR in 2030, what do they expect out of CSR in 2040, how their company will be placed vis-a-vis business strategy. So these are the key points, Dr. Zameen.
Thank you so much. So a lot of clarity has been brought into these CSR provisions. I think going through very briefly, I also went through those new provisions. One thing is very clear that things have been made simpler for people who are doing CSR in a better way, and things have been made tougher for people who have been trying to play bad with this CSR and trying to hoodwink the system, because I think certain requirements of committees have been done away with a, if the threshold is below a certain value of for the company, and but on the other side, penal action has also been advised for companies who are not up to the
Yes.
provisions of CSR. And actually even the officers who will be involved into that activity, personally they will also be penalized. uh, I don't twice the amount of CSR amount which was supposed to be given to be taken out from their own funds or something like that.
Yes,
I
and greenwashing will not be allowed, as
Yeah.
rightly said. So thank you for bringing in that point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And okay, so what is the future roadmap that you think will be followed by Indian companies for bringing together CSR and SDGs in India? Because
Hmm.
we have seen the experience of COVID. There were certain companies who came forward more than others in terms of CSR at that time. Other companies took the shield of lower business and lower turnovers and tried to get out of their mandates. So how do you think the future is going to be for private and public sector in India in this domain?
First of all, as clearly highlighted by our discussion in the prior this thing, that it is very clear that scrupulous activities will not be given place. Right. So greenwashing, that we called in academics, that
Yeah.
many companies, they are doing a lot of greenwashing activities. So it is very difficult for them, as you also brought that point. So a very clear vision in terms of what are we expecting out of CSR? What is government expecting out of CSR? And I would advise, and companies are doing. First of all, they have to align their CSR with the SDGs. We have done a piece of research, and we have found that the companies are investing most in three SDGs. First is education, then it is health, whereas a few SDGs are being completely ignored. So we analyzed the Bombay Stock Exchange BSE 500 companies, and our research has showcased that the most ignored SDGs are climate action. And you just raised the issue of Uttarakhand disaster. It is a global issues, you see, and climate action is, except the carbon footprinting, where they get carbon credits, right? So, the few activities are being worked on, whereas, these are not enlarged, their scope is not large. Then second is there is no action on biodiversity. Biodiversity is not tree plantations. What companies are doing, they are just sending their employees for planting trees and all. So then a few companies are also calculating the carbon sequestered by these plantations, but many of these are, tree plantation is not CSR activity. Tree plantation, how you have made impact, you have to link it with your business strategy also. So these are the SDGs which are completely ignored. Whereas if you see on biodiversity, there are a lot of activities, targets and indicators. We need to work on those targets and indicators. There has to be a meaningful work. There has to be a clear cut vision, agenda and commitment towards SDGs, as far as CSR activities are concerned. Only then we will be able to meet up our targets as a nation, as a company, and at the global scale, as Ms. Siddiqui has just highlighted. So we need to companies need to do 2-3 things, which I say that they have to go by the definition of CSR as per the rules, right? So now that you know that what is excluded of CSR definition, so you have to go by that definition. Then second is that a serious engagement is needed at the with all the stakeholders, whether it is a industry organization like GCNI or UN, or national policy making bodies, or ministries. We have to align our activities towards the national goals, towards the global goals, policies and frameworks, right? And we need some serious commitment towards SDGs. So I must set my target today as a company, that by 2030, how will I be contributing to this particular SDG? Now, SDG on marine life, SDG on ecosystems. Nobody is covering these activities in India. Of course, these are part of the Schedule 7 activities, but nobody is working. So even within that SDG, they will fix on some activities with which they are convenient and comfortable. So now I think after the amendment rules, it is very clear that companies need to have a clear-cut vision and agenda to take this forward. They need to ask themselves these questions, that which are the activities I need to take forward, which SDGs are I'm working more on, and how do I align my CSR activities with SDGs? How do I work on various targets and indicators, project wise focus on SDGs? So I think role of board is also very important. Role of CSR committee is very important, because they set the vision and direction, and you have to also align every CSR activity with your business goals as well.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is a very important moot point that you have raised, that diversifying into different CSR activities and aligning them to the SDGs, and those underrepresented SDGs, which are very important. All of these things have, I think, made all of us enlightened and more interested, more eager to listen to you and other experts in the coming batch of this particular program. Now it's the time for us to have some thoughts from one of the participants who was there in the last batch, and I invite Mr. Partha Majumdar to be there, and if he can share his experience and his insights from the last batch, because he was a participant of the first batch of this particular program. Mr. Partha, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Let me just introduce myself. I'm a very small businessman. I started my business in 2014, and possibly CSR doesn't bother me at this point of time so much. But nevertheless, after I took the course, it took me by surprise that it is not only about business, it is about a personal thing also, that we all need to take care of the earth and the people and everything that is there in the earth. So we need to be aware of this particular thing and the initiatives that the world is taking towards taking care of the whole stuff. This course told me that. And it is not just enough to be aware that I need to take care of the earth. I need to take care of things like reducing carbon footprint, or I need to take care of things like making some amount of contribution towards women empowerment and things like that. But there needs to be knowledge which has to be scientific and which has to be what do you call, given in a particular way that can help an individual in terms of participating in this whole process of making the earth a better place for us and for our future. So this course enabled me to understand all that, and I'm really grateful that I joined this course, and I'm very grateful for the teachers who are so esteemed. And also, I was very lucky to have very high profile colleagues in the cohort who make this learning a very fruitful experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Partha Sahab. Thank you for your nice words, and I'm sure listening to him, other people will be interested in joining, and also will expect you people to spread the word about this particular course. Not only because we want enrollment, but because it's a cause, it's a matter which should be more widely understood, accepted, and practiced. That's what Partha was also talking about. Uh, we have some time for taking 2 or 3 questions from the participants. If they have anything ask a question from Dr. Sapna, or just raise a point or share something. So the floor is open for anybody who can just speak, unmute yourself and then talk about something that you want to ask. There is some question for you, Dr. Sapna, on the chat box. How
Okay,
will this course help for NGOs?
yeah, so this course will train you in how you can manage the NGOs, how you can do CSR activities. So if you are working in an NGO, and I remember last time there were six people from Rotary, and they found this course very interesting. In fact, it was all new for them, because NGOs would be the implementing agencies, and as per the new provisions, implementing agencies have to be registered with the government. So that's how you are the ones who companies would consult with to take the CSR projects and sustainability projects in the field. So that's how it is helpful for NGOs. It was really a new experience for all those colleagues who participated from Rotary. You will also learn about a lot of sustainability stuff, how business strategies prepared, how do you set sustainability agenda. And as Ms. Chapnam Siddiqui clearly highlighted, that both the aspects are entirely different. So I remember many of the participants, they did not know the differentiation between CSR and sustainability, whereas CSR, especially for Indian companies, it is mostly a mandatory provision, even within the firm. CSR is more about your social responsibility, and sustainability is something that you do for your own firm sustainability. So we discussed a lot of aspects related to sustainability reporting. We also covered integrated thinking framework, which very well highlights how business strategy is to be aligned with all the 5 kinds of capital. We discussed aspects of calculating carbon footprints, water footprints. So merely that hands-on training helped the NGOs working in different areas to align their activities. It is helpful for NGOs, in fact.
Yeah, I may also like to add here, once NGOs anyway are working in one of those areas of the SDGs, because those 17 SDGs which have been given by UN, most of the work done by NGOs will align with one or two of them only. Now, if you understand that SDGs correctly and understand how CSR can be aligned to that, that becomes a very important aspect for the NGO in two respects. One is diversifying its own field of activities, and second, very important today is
Right.
to dip into the pool of CSR funds, because it is, as Dr. Sapna pointed out, NGO is the body who's going to execute all these things on the ground, and all these big corporates, they have the fund, they have the mandate, but they don't know the know-how of how to go about putting those funds into the right kind of things, and that's where NGOs come in. So when NGOs are looking for funds, funding agencies, funding organizations, they can actually dip into this pool of CSR fund which is available. I think, Sapna ji, am I correct in this
Yeah,
respect?
yeah, sure, sure. Very, very well. You have supplemented whatever I said, and I would like to invite Dr. Ashima Mathur if she wants to say anything about the course or this particular question. Yes, Dr.
Uh,
Ashima.
yeah, thank you, Dr. Sapna, for inviting me over here. And I just think that NGOs are the implementing agency, and it is the work of the NGOs, the advocacy which comes from the governmental bodies and the businesses together. When they work together, they bring the desired change in the society. So it is very essential for the NGO sector to learn about how the three bodies intersect and what role can they actually play in this course, and they learn through this course. So yeah, that is what I would like to add over here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. For Ashima, it is like too late because she works in Arizona. So, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for joining, because I did not expect you, because of this time difference, we were thinking probably you may not be able to join, but thank you for joining.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. So,
I have a
yeah, yeah,
question
please,
for
please, please,
yeah, I have a
please
question for
introduce.
Dr. Sapna.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Sapna, my name is Teklal Mahato. I belong to India. Currently, I'm located in UAE. So, my question is: you mentioned about the act that has been revised on CSR and sustainability by Indian government. So,
Right.
may I know the name of the act and where can I find that in detail?
Okay, so for your purpose, I will send the document to Dr. Asif Zamir. It is there on the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. You can find the Hindi version, which is mostly available. But there are also, abridged versions available at various law agencies websites. So it's not very difficult to find that. This is called, you will search as CSR Amendment Rules 2021. These are the amendment rules. So the act is the Companies Act, and CSR rules came in 2000 act came in 2013. But if you want to know about the amendments, you will search as CSR Amendment Rules 2021. I can send you the copy of the Gazette notification. Yeah. It is in Hindi.
Okay, that's good.
Hindi, yeah.
Not an issue. That will be helpful to understand that. And another one, sorry, the another question is, do we have you mentioned that there is a difference in CSR and the sustainability.
Yes.
So, is that been clearly defined? What are the activities would be considered under CSR, and what are the activity would be considered under sustainability to align
Yes.
the overall goal with the?
Very good question. Very good question, Teklal Mehto ji. In fact, I wanted some of you to have asked this question. There is one thing called, covered under the Act. Okay. The Act gives you a definition of CSR. Okay. They defined CSR inclusively earlier. Now they are defining what is excluded, what is included, right? So there are various activities which come under CSR. Okay. Schedule 7 gives you detailed of all the activities. So that is the mandatory provision in India. Now comes sustainability. Sustainability is a more integrated concept. Why it is an integrated concept? Because sustainability is, it is based on the premise of triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit, right? That given by Ecklington. Okay, so companies do not only need to worry about their profits, but also about the people and planet. And this goes like this. Today, you have been thinking all the time about the profits. Cement companies in Rajasthan never bothered about the water table decrease. Okay, till the time that they found that they did not have water as raw material, right? So they took that important natural resource for they took it so granted that they did not care for it. As a result of it, groundwater table decreased in the areas where they had plants. And what happened was that there was a time when they did not have water to run their companies. At the same time, labor, if there is no water, labor will not stay there. Labor migrated. Labor migrated means, the labor which was remaining, it became so costlier. So ultimately, it impacted you. Any climate disaster, whether it is Amazon forest fire or Australian forest fire, ultimately it impacts the business sector, because government needs to spend money to manage those disasters. Insurance companies, see the loss of insurance companies after a disaster. Japan, when tsunami came, insurance companies were like, they were toppled over, because so ultimately, directly or indirectly, you are impacted. So you face lot of risks, and these are the risks to your environmental risks, and social risks are important and significant for the business, and businesses have realized that. Tata Nano plant in Singur, you were unable to manage your stakeholders. Result is that you are suffering losses. So sustainability talk about giving you a platform to take activities where you are not only bothered about profits, but also the social and environmental part of it. Okay, so that in long run, sustainability is always long run. Okay, so we are not talking about only the financial bottom line, but we are also talking about the environmental and social bottom line. So that is how companies now need to talk about sustainability. Sustainability is more about stakeholder engagement. It is about doing some work, reporting that work. Sustainability is a wider conundrum. It is for the firm. It is for the firm. CSR, as per the mandatory version, is different. Now there is also a concept called creating shared value. If I bring into come into that, creating shared value, is not CSR. Creating shared value says, like, our very own ITC CEO Deveshwar Raoji, he was very much professing creating shared value. So he says that each opal that he has built, he always said that companies will do sustainability only if this is if the sustainability activities are integrated with your business model, so they become more meaningful, employees get more attracted, customers get benefit out of it. So that is how these concepts are different. Corporate social responsibility is also different. Philanthropy is not corporate social responsibility. There is difference between philanthropy, CSR, CSV, and sustainability. So I think this course will give you more outlook on what is the difference between these concepts. You will be taught through case studies, and we will have meaningful discussions, and you yourself will see that how it is different. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much, and we are really arriving at the end of our 1 hour discussion. This is a fantastic discussion where people from UNGCNI and Dr. Ashima, Dr. Sapna, Ms. Shabnam Siddiqui, thank you so much for joining and enlightening all of us onto this very important topic. I'll also like to thank people who are behind the scenes, not visible on the screen. Shreya Verma from UNGCNI, Mr. Asim Kumar from UNGCNI, Piyush Kumar from IMT-CDL, the IT team at IMT-CDL who have been looking at the back-end support of this, the marketing team at IMT, and not the least, all the participants who have joined today. So thank you so much for joining at this time, and we hope to see you in the actual program. And I wish you all the best. And thank you, Dr. Sapna, again for such a healthy discussion on this. Thank you so much. So we are ending this session now.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Thank you, Dr. Ash.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.